Pittsburgh does have unique infrastructure challenges, so we are a city that lost over half of its population since the 1950s with the steel industry leaving. Just because half of our population and tax base is gone, we still have to maintain essentially the same level of infrastructure. Just because, for instance, on one street, 8 out of 10 residents might have moved out, doesn't mean that we can stop providing services that street. We have to make a lot of data-driven decisions as how to best allocate our budget with limited resources for the network that we have to maintain.
Where the initial pain point was the fact that we didn't actually know or have a real inventory of what we owned. The Cartograph project was really initiated because we need some type of database that allows us to understand what we have and what condition it's in.
We needed more than just a work order system. We needed to have more asset-specific detail. We saw a lot of benefits with utilizing an asset management and work order management system that integrated with our GIS services. So having the asset detail turn Cartograph into a single source of truth for our city assets. Being able to combine everything in one place with maps and pictures and documents and details about those assets and combining that with the work order management system to get that level of detail on the assets was very beneficial.
Oh, I think it's incredibly valuable. We use it to track a variety of things. It's incredibly helpful to have all of that real property data in one location. So from an analytical perspective, you can kind of look for pinch points and for places where improvements can be made.
It definitely helps us be proactive in the sense that with our pavement, we can make better decisions about what we're paving so that we get fewer requests in the future about potholes and things like that. So if we do a better job paving our streets, that's going to help us be more proactive and spend less time patching potholes.
Prior to Cartograph, it was very much at political will. It was at the request of a council person or the mayor's office as to whether or not even sometimes basic things like replacing a floor or doing some painting.
We do get calls from residents, so being able to pull up information immediately and give feedback immediately is incredibly helpful, both just from a customer service perspective, but also just our time.
We have over 400 buildings, and our Public Works Department is responsible for maintaining all of them. So that includes things like our senior and rec centers, our firehouses, our DPW operations divisions. Any building in the city, Public Works is responsible for maintaining. Prior to using Cartograph, they would get requests for maintenance from email, phone calls, just people in person. And there was really no way of tracking what volume of requests they get, how long it takes for us to close those requests, how much money we're spending on those requests. We're able to see a lot more detail about where we're getting the most requests from what departments, what facilities, what types of requests we're getting. We're hoping to use that to help either justify budgets or just start working on things like SLAs and kind of expected turnaround time. So our warehouse maintains an inventory of nearly 1,500 different items, and that ranges from everything from paper towels and gloves to shovels, to medical supplies, and then for our rec centers and senior centers, it can be things like arts and crafts and sports supplies. So they have a very large and diverse inventory of materials. They don't necessarily operate like a typical warehouse. They operate more like a store. So people make requests to them and they go and deliver them. They needed something, for one, that they could track inventory better and have more flexibility and customization. They wanted something to make the request process for their materials more streamlined and easier on them. We first got all of their inventory into Cartograph, and they were really happy about that because it gave them a lot of flexibility to be able to edit fields, add fields that they needed, and more closely track the materials that they had on hand. It's cutting down on paper as well as confusion.
Cartograph gives us the ability to manage the right things and to have the right items on hand when we need them so we can make that supply process work in an effective and efficient manner.
Our heavy equipment division, they maintain things like front loaders, cranes, tractors. They're the ones who are responsible for working on the plows and getting those equipped on the trucks and things like that. So they were able to use Cartograph for two things. One was to build an inventory of all their parts and track how much they have on hand, how much they need to order, and in addition to that, track work on our pieces of equipment that we maintain. They can look at a single piece of equipment and they can see how much they've invested in just repairing and parts and labor and everything that goes into keeping that piece of equipment in the field. And then that can help them to determine that maybe it's time to just purchase a new piece of equipment.
What I did here was I took the part numbers for the oil filters and the other items that we need on the service, and I run the part numbers. It gives me a readout as to what we used last year at this time on those filters, spark plugs, and other items that we need for the service. So that helps out a lot because that tells me what I used over the last year. It tells me what I have on inventory at this time and what I need to get in inventory to complete that service when them items come in and they're not sitting down there waiting for parts.
Right now it's immeasurably valuable to us in terms of just manpower and how we make investment decisions. We probably couldn't do the job that we need to do without it. It's kind of a linchpin of how we're working right now.